Hi, I'm Mehdi, and welcome to Your Finance TV's Crypto Revolution, where we cover all things crypto and digital assets. And there's always something to talk about in the world of crypto. Adam, welcome back. How are you, mate?
I'm doing great, Mehdi. It's kind of end of the summer, and maybe things are starting to pick up in crypto. Hopefully, they will towards the end of the year. But as you said, always something to talk about.
Well, there certainly is. But before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to stay on top of our content. I believe we're comfortably through 4,000 subscribers. So thank you very much for all your support. And always don't forget to drop us a line if there's anything you want us to explore in more depth or any particular topics. So, Adam, there's still, as you say, we're at the end of summer. There's been a lot of chatter around these ETFs. There was another SEC delay posted, I guess, last week for all the applicants, including BlackRock and Fidelity and the others. What do you think? Are we getting a little nervous here? Do we feel like things are going to progress? I know JP Morgan came out with a statement saying that the SEC would likely be forced to approve a spot Bitcoin ETF after the grayscale decision. But are you feeling okay? Was this expected? Is my question.
I think it was expected, especially in wake of what happened last week with the grayscale ruling, right? It was just a few days before the SEC had to either approve, deny, or delay some of these decisions. And just a few days earlier is when the grayscale ruling came out. Basically, the judge saying, SEC, you're free to deny the grayscale ETF if you want. However, you better come up with different reasoning. And remember, this is the same reasoning the SEC has been using for years to deny Bitcoin spot ETFs. So the delay tactic is one that I think everybody pretty much expected. I think we would have been shocked to see anything other. We definitely would have been shocked to see denial, because that would have meant immediate lawsuits. We would have been shocked to see an approval, because I think they were just preparing to delay. And I think they're going to prepare to delay for quite a while, until such time as either it gets seen as maybe a political liability that they're not approving this, or, as JP Morgan insinuates, and Grayscale is obviously saying, look, you've run out of reasons to deny at this point. And at some point, you just have to approve and move on. I mean, the SEC is spending a tremendous amount of resources coming up with reasons to deny Bitcoin spot ETFs that clearly the market and so many other people want.
So the next deadline, I guess, or soft deadline, is the middle of the later part of the middle of October, I guess, October 17th and around that sort of period. Would we expect to get this pushed out again to probably 2024 at this point?
I think the farthest they can push it out is January to March of 2024, based on who the applicants are. It wouldn't shock me for them to delay a little bit more, because why not? You've already delayed this long. Why not continue to delay? Unless, maybe they're trying to come up with reasons why they want to deny it. Maybe they're going to cite, hey, it's tax season and we've been busy doing our taxes, from our extensions back in April, and we needed to get our taxes in and we didn't have time to look at all these silly Bitcoin spot ETF applications. So a delay wouldn't surprise me at all. It also wouldn't surprise me if they finally said, look, we're tired of dealing with this. The only way we can get out of dealing with it is to approve them, right? And that's really the only way the SEC can get out of dealing with all these spot ETFs and all the talk about it and all the court cases, is just to go ahead and approve and kind of let the market get what they want.
And do you think, because of all this delay, that's kind of, we've seen, let's reference the price of Bitcoin right now as we're filming, it's around the 25,500, 600 mark. It got up obviously to 30,000 odds. We had a nice little pop after the grayscale decision. So we've drifted back to below those levels at this point. Do you think that, and I don't want to put your feet to the fire in regards to price targets and such, but if we get an approval, obviously we'd expect the price of Bitcoin to rise. If we don't get, or if we get a denial, we'd expect it to fall. There's also now been a lot more chatter that institutional money has kind of been drifting into things like the AI world, into Nvidia, and away from things like Bitcoin. The speculative market is going more into the AI direction, away from crypto. Do you think there's a lot to be kind of put on that, or do you think it's just standard money?
Yeah, look, There's really not a lot of reason right now. There's not a lot of good reasons for people to go investing, for institutions to go investing a whole bunch of money in Bitcoin, right? Inflation, I guess, has kind of been held in check a little bit. We are, as we had this relatively rampant inflation in the last couple of years, it's kind of come down a little bit. And there haven't been many tailwinds to pick up Bitcoin in the sense of institutions going, we need to go invest tens to hundreds of millions of dollars to billions of dollars right now, because everyone's just waiting on regulation. Everyone's waiting on either approval or denial, and there's no reason to go jump in otherwise. So you're right. If there's an approval, the price probably goes up. If there's a denial, the price probably goes down. And then we'll get back to really why people want to own Bitcoin in this case. And that obviously has ramifications for the rest of the crypto world. But as you and I will probably talk about in the next few minutes, what we're seeing now is more building going on in the rest of the crypto world. But everything right now is based on spot Bitcoin ETF approval, denial, delay by the SEC. And again, there's no reason for anyone to really go in and speculate one way or the other, because there's a really good chance your value could go up. There's a really good chance it could go down, but there's nothing else really pushing the price of Bitcoin one direction or the other. And that's why we've seen it just kind of hang around this level. Actually, other than the quick little pops here and there, it's been hanging around this level for a few months.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Just we'll kind of put that into the macro universe of the bigger picture side of things. But what's good to see, as we're going to go a bit deeper into this as well. But there's been continued development in the universe, right? Even seeing some of the guys like at London Stock Exchange, they're planning to use blockchain-powered digital markets for their markets business. They're applying blockchain technology onto their traditional assets that they trade, which is it's always nice to see all this. And these are some of the use cases that we've discussed in the past as well.
Right. And this is getting away from the talk of just what's the price of Bitcoin, what's the price of ETH. This is actually utilizing the system. So this is the equivalent of not talking about the stock price of Amazon and Yahoo and Google, but figuring out how we're actually going to use it. And as I think I've told you before, many, many, many more millionaires have become millionaires by actually building something on the internet or selling things via Amazon than in just investing in Amazon stock. Same thing is going to happen in the crypto and blockchain world. We're going to figure out so many other use cases that are not just turn me into an overnight billionaire use cases or token price goes up use cases. We're actually seeing groups like the London Stock Exchange go, oh, well, this is a better system that we can use rather than the proprietary databases we've been using for so long. We've tested and we're going to migrate to this public blockchain system because of whatever we like about it. It's instantaneous transfer, it's transparency, it's all these things that we like about the blockchain technology. We're seeing these use cases come. And that's where many people say we're in a bear market in the crypto world, where we're in the bear market in terms of only the price. But there is a tremendous amount of building that continues to go on, and a tremendous amount of realization about what those use cases can be.
Okay, so that kind of pushes me nicely into one of the altcoins that I know there's been some development and such on, but there's also been some institutional focus on as well, is Solana. Solana, and obviously we're not talking the same numbers as with Bitcoin, but they've seen some decent inflows over the last 18 months versus historical. There was obviously a lot of interest in the past. It waned, and now we're seeing an uptick in that. One, are you seeing that yourself? Are you in conversations? Are you starting to see more of that interest in Solana develop? And also from an application kind of view as well?
I think part of the reason why we're seeing some interest in Solana is there has been a lot of money devoted to Solana development. And when we talk about some of these blockchains, especially the smart contract ones, the ones like Ethereum and Solana and Avalanche and Polygon, the ones where people are building applications and all these use cases, is really what we look at is who's developing for them, or is someone developing applications to go on top of those chains. Solana got really hammered because Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX were heavily invested. They were investing a lot in the developers on top of Solana, and so obviously when FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried went down, there was, a lot of institutions selling, and the price of Solana came crashing down, probably much more than most crypto assets and most altcoins. But what we're seeing is there was so much development already happening on Solana that now we're seeing more and more applications being launched, gaming applications, which we know from the world of, what, if you want to call it Web2 gaming, whatever it is, can be a monstrous use case and a monstrous market for crypto. Well, Solana lends itself to gaming much more so than Ethereum does because of the speed of the transactions. We're seeing derivatives markets come on the Solana blockchain. We'll talk later about stable coins on Solana blockchain. So the building was already there, and I think some of those institutional investors are realizing that Solana now maybe has this opportunity, and I'm not telling you it does, but it might have this opportunity to have outsized gains above and beyond what we might see from Bitcoin and ETH.
That's all very interesting, and you also just touched on it there about stable coins being on Solana blockchain as well. One of the big names behind one is Visa. Talk us through this.
Okay, so Visa has been playing in the crypto world for a long time, and they've been experimenting with different methods. They experimented with crypto.com as a payment backend. Visa experimented with actually settling transactions on the Ethereum blockchain before any other kind of payment processors were doing it. And so now what they're saying is we're going to settle using USDC, so US dollar coin, a stable coin that's worth $1. We're going to give the opportunity to settle using Solana USDC, and that's US dollar coin on the Solana blockchain rather than the Ethereum blockchain. And this is a really big deal overall because it's Visa, right? One of the largest, maybe the largest payment processor in the world, doing similar things to what we talked about with PayPal weeks ago, realizing we're not in the business of just connecting bank accounts such that Adam and Mehdi can transact financially. We're in the business of making sure that Adam and Mehdi can transact financially, regardless of what that looks like, regardless of what the underlying system is. And Visa is in the business of effecting that transaction, making it easier, making it safer. And the fact that they're choosing to go the direction of Solana USDC is a really big deal for Solana, obviously. So if we look at this just Solana price, we go, okay, maybe there is going to be millions to billions of more transactions on Solana, meaning maybe the token becomes more valuable, right? So you go back to those institutional investors and go, there's so much opportunity for us here because the Solana token can be, more valuable if Visa is processing transactions on the blockchain. And then you go, all right, everyone else, there's the opportunity that many, many, many merchants in the world are going to be able to receive USDC on the Solana chain, and therefore also be able to spend it, right? You and I can theoretically spend our USDC with a vendor, with a merchant that accepts it, that uses Visa. They don't have to, put a big sign out that says, crypto accepted here. They just use Visa, and Visa gives them the opportunity. So you have the ultimate on-ramp and the ultimate off-ramp, none of which goes through a bank, right? None, and all of which settles instantaneously, very transparently. It's just a monstrous change. And going back to what we saw at the London Stock Exchange, it's the realization that this technology is better than what we've had in the past. And so we're going to go that direction.
And all this seems to come down to a lot of credibility from traditional players in the TradFi space, where we were discussing a couple of weeks ago, as you mentioned, PayPal. PayPal brought in their stable coin. This is like the PayPal situation, but on a far bigger, size and scale, using the Visa name, rails, everything, which is, it's kind of seamless for us as retail users. So it's fantastic. Obviously, we need to see more and more uptake coming from this, and we'll see how that all progresses. But from a user perspective, having someone like that behind it is just massive.
Oh yeah, it's huge. And again, Visa's been playing in this for a while. They've been experimenting a lot. And I think, like I've said with other companies, just like PayPal, they're not wading into this with FOMO. They're not doing it because they have to, because everyone, has been clamoring for it or something. They're doing this partially because people have been clamoring for it, but partially because they realize that if they don't, they're going to have to dig their heels in and they're going to be in for a big fight. and they're better off migrating to the next technology and not digging their heels in and going, no, no, no. All we do is process transactions between banks. And keep in mind when with the press release that came out about this and even some tweets from Visa themselves, they talked about how long it takes for me to pay for my proverbial cup of coffee with a credit card for that money to actually make it to that coffee shop, and how many hands it has to go through and all the fees that are deducted along the way. They actually talked about that. These are ways that Visa makes money, and they're actually explaining we make money in all these places, as do all these banks. And a lot of that doesn't go to the coffee shop. It's why you're paying more for a cup of coffee than you used to.
Well, it's about building a better mousetrap, and it seems like we certainly have in this case.
Right.
Coinbase. We've been talking about Coinbase an awful lot over the last several months, generally about lawsuits and such. But in this case, they're actually starting to dip their toe into an area that I personally didn't think they would, but they're getting involved in the institutional markets on a crypto lending service. I know people have shied away from this, but they're diving in. What do you think on this side?
I think it's great. Look, Coinbase, one thing is, in light of all their issues with the SEC and regulation and everything, they're continuing to push forward with more products, with more services that they see a need for. Brian Armstrong actually, wrote an article this week and had a whole Twitter thread about the 10 places that he would like to see more investment in the crypto world. So Coinbase continues to push forward. It's actually pretty remarkable. Now, talking about what they're doing in the lending space, much of the kind of crypto lending space has been left relatively vacant with the loss of the likes of Genesis that obviously imploded after 3 Arrows Capital and FTX and others that have had issues lending to crypto companies because they didn't have very good risk management. And now Coinbase, who has been remarkably conservative for the most part in everything they've done, is going, all right, we've seen what they all did wrong. There's a need for this in the market. And we, Coinbase, the publicly traded company, the one that the SEC is still going to go after, we're going to be the ones to do it. Because if anyone can do it, we can, because we know we're going to have the regulators breathing down our back. We're going to do everything on the up and up. We're going to make sure our risk management is solid, because we can't risk our publicly traded equity. We can't risk the place we have in the market. And so they're going to do it, I think, from the correct standpoint, the correct risk management. I think they've already raised like $57 million to put in the fund very quickly from some of their institutional clients. And it seems like a pretty good deal. This is not something where you and I, Mehdi, are going to have Bitcoin at Coinbase, a few dollars worth and going to go borrow against it. This is institutions actually maybe custodying Bitcoin with Coinbase and getting loans against it. That's really what Coinbase is looking at here. And again, there's been a kind of a hole in the market there ever since we saw, both 3 Arrows Capital blow up and what that led to, and then the FTX blow up and what that led to. We've seen a hole in the market. I think Genesis was several $1 billion worth of lending that just kind of went away.
Well, let's see if this creates some leverage in the market that everyone's been calling for and bring back some of that volatility. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but I'm just saying there's a lot of people calling for it. So it's what it is. Adam, as always, thank you so much for your time and sharing your thoughts with us.
Oh, great to be here, Mehdi. Thanks so much for having me.
And I always want to urge our viewers, check out Adam's course on digital assets and crypto education. The website's down there. It's interaxis.io. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to YourFinanceTV. Until next time, thank you for watching and good luck investing.